The fact of the matter is, whether you've been in network marketing for years or just a few days, your family and friends have seen your opportunity and your phone is, as we call it, burnt. If you're anything like me, that's a scary thought. So the big question is, how do entrepreneurs like us, who love the network marketing profession, who no longer want to be that guy, and are tired of convincing people during uncomfortable let's get coffee meetings where they say, what's this all about? How do we market in a way that aligns us with our dream clients and expands our network of upfront and transparent professionals, allowing us to get our time back, our families back, and gain a real passive asset? People like us who value impact over income, we deserve to see our visions once and for all. Join me in this podcast where we'll uncover just how to do that. My name is Eric Sablon. Welcome to Burnt Phone Marketing. Hey guys, welcome to Burnt Phone Marketing. This is Eric Sablon, and I'm actually honored to get one of my really good friends. We grew up together. He's been an entrepreneur since he was in second grade. His family owned a hardware store in Anchorage, Alaska. That's how I met him. Then he went on to do some coaching. He was actually huge in personal training. He worked at a gym. He owned a gym, and now he's actually transitioned into something really cool. And his goal is to impact peak performance and impact-driven entrepreneurs. So he knows who his avatar is. So guys, take a listen to him. Please welcome Arvin Anderson to the show.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready to jam out.
Yeah, let's do this, man. Let's do this. So, I just kind of want to let the audience know who you are and where you came from. So a little bit about your backstory and then your transition from, the fitness area into what you're doing right now, because I think what you're doing right now will help a lot of the listeners. So yeah, just kind of a backstory of who you are and where you came from.
You want the 5-minute version or the 5-hour version?
Let's get the 5-hour version in 3 minutes.
No, you're right, man. I mean, I've been exposed to the entrepreneurial world my whole life. My dad was an entrepreneur, so it's always been kind of that mindset for me. My sister's an entrepreneur. She took over the family business, and I went in my own way. And there was that brief stint there in my 20s where I worked for a corporation, and it just showed me exactly what I didn't want my life to be. So I got back into that entrepreneurial world. And when I got back into it, I got into it in the real estate world first, where everything was about making money, because I really thought that's what I wanted in life. Like, I got to make money. I got to make money. And as I started to accumulate wealth in that area and getting myself into that 6-figure world, it wasn't fulfilling me at all. And actually what was fulfilling me at the time was doing CrossFit. And as much as I love the training aspect of it, it was really the community aspect of it that I loved. Like, it was, once I left Alaska, I lived in Las Vegas, and I really struggled to make the connections that I had growing up in Anchorage, right? Because it's a small town community. Everybody knows everybody. And I missed it so much. And that was the first time I actually had like my community of people again. And I just loved that. And as I just acknowledged that was really starting to fulfill me, I really wanted to pivot with what I was doing with my life professionally. And I was like, you know what, this CrossFit business is still new. This was, back in 2012, it hadn't really taken off yet, but I could see that it was going to, and I saw an opportunity there. So I left, I kind of left the real estate world. I still did that on the back end, but I put all my focus into building a CrossFit business because I loved it. And I knew what it did for me in terms of creating connection. Yeah, like it improved my health and quality of life, but it was that connection that really just changed everything for me. And I wanted to go out there and provide that for other people because I knew people were looking for it. And so I did. I dove into the CrossFit business, and I spent 7 years in that world of helping people create transformations with their health, right? But as I learned, in that world, that wasn't the real change that people were coming for. And as I really started to understand that on a deeper level, I realized like that was the transformation I needed to help people make. And as life would have it, it forced me to run myself through the transformational process first. Because as I was about 4 years into that business and I was at its peak, I was, grossing over $200,000 a year at that time. Everything was going really well. I was engaged to be married. I had all these people around me that I thought were my friends, and like everything was thriving. And then what felt like a blink of the eye, it all fell apart. Like my business, my head coach at the time, I had to let him go. We had to part ways. And, he opened up a gym right down the road from me, and a lot of my members left. My engagement fell apart, and it was just like I was just spiraling out of control emotionally. Like my heart wasn't in it anymore. I felt very isolated. I felt like people that I really trust and love turned their back on me, and I just didn't know who I could trust anymore. And I just felt very alone. And, the money was falling apart. My relationship fell apart. And I just found myself at just this rock bottom part of my life where, I mean, I was just surrounded by darkness, man. And it was really hard to pick myself up. And luckily there were still a couple people in my life that just refused to give up on me and just continued to just pull me out of that darkness. And as I did that, I realized I got to get myself out of this, right? Like, I don't care what I have to do. I got to do something, because this is just not going to be my life. I'm not going to sit here and live in this depression and this darkness. And so it was I knew I was being tested. And as I accepted the test, as I accepted the challenge to pull myself out of this, not only pull myself out, but take myself to a higher place of life that I've never been before, that embarked my journey of personal transformation. And as I went through that journey and started to learn the things that I learned, and more specifically apply those things to my life and create these changes that I sought for myself, and really create these changes in my inner world so that my external world could actually be different. Because that's what a lot of my frustration was happening, is I was wanting to create all these changes externally, but I wasn't changing. So I would keep doing these things, and I would still show up as this self-defeated and insecure and person, and stressed out and lacking confidence, and just hoping these things would work, and none of it ever did. It would just continue to frustrate me even more and more. And then I realized, as I learned these things, that I wasn't changing. And until I changed, nothing else in my external world was going to change. And so I committed to that process. And once I did, and I actually started putting these things in practice, everything started to change for me. And as I did that, I began to pivot, and I started to realize where my calling was, and to teach people how to create these personal transformations for themselves personally, so that they can apply it professionally. And as I do that, really narrowing my niche down to working with impact-driven entrepreneurs and coaches, people that want to go out there and make a difference in other people's lives, because that's their calling. Because anything that I do, I want it to have a pay-it-forward effect, where it's just improving the quality of people's lives. More specifically, like teaching people how to step into their power, man, to just really own who they are, who they were meant to be, and just walk courageously towards fulfilling their purpose. Because when you do that, I mean, that's when you really start to embrace that fulfillment of life. That's what I want to help people do.
Wow, that's huge. So do that. And that's funny that you gravitated towards, CrossFit to bring you to that community, and got that back, and then built something else, built it, a gym out of that. However, I mean, things happened, it fell apart, but at your darkest point, you self-reflected and
Yep.
literally took yourself to the next level by, changing yourself. Because, one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, says, for things to change, you have to change. And, it's so cliche, but unless you're in the moment, a lot of times you just pass through it.
Yep.
The second question was, who is your dream client? And, what does your dream client look like? And you kind of touched on it, but I kind of want to go into a little bit more of who is your dream client? So that way, if any of my listeners need to reach out to you, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that, because I just did a webinar yesterday with my audience about how to create clarity around your niche so you can build your audience full of your ideal clients, right? Like, how do you identify who that ideal client is? And one of the first things that I tell people is, to identify that ideal client is, who do you love talking to, right? Like, you sit here, if you're in this coaching space or this space of transformation or growth, like, you're having conversations with people all the time about what you do and how you serve them. And there's certain people that you talk to that really just gravitate towards your message, right? Like, it's like you could just talk for hours and it feels like minutes. Like, who is that person? And for me, it's people that have reached that threshold. Because to work with somebody like me, that you can't come in with conditions, right? It can't come in with that, I'll try it out mentality. It's got to be that, look, I've experienced a pain point that I don't ever want to experience again. I want to get as far away from that pain as possible. More specifically, I want to get into pleasure, and I want to identify what that pleasure is. And I want that to be my driving force. And then whatever we decide to do, I'm going to do it, because this mission, this journey is a must for me. It's not a maybe. It's not a probably. It's not a should be. It is an absolute must, because that's the only way it's going to work, because it's just going to be too hard. And so the people that are still stuck in that ambivalence and just refuse to do the work to get out of it, I'm not your guy. But when you've hit that threshold, because that's exactly what happened for me, right? I hit that pain threshold. I remember that darkness like it was yesterday, and there's no way I'm going back to that. Right. There's no way I'm going back to it. This mission is a must. You tell me what to do, I'm doing it. Because I work with my own coaches, and I make that decision before I go in. And we have that conversation. Like, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you can expect from me. Like, I'm going to play full out. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to trust your opinion. I'm going to trust you see things that I don't see. You're already performing at levels that I want to perform at. That's why I sought you out as a coach. And I'm just going to do what you tell me to do, right? Like, Tom Brady doesn't argue with Bill Belichick about what the plays should be and how to run the offense, right? Like, he's the coach. He's the player. He goes out and executes. And that's a coaching and client relationship. The coach provides the strategy, and the player goes out there and they execute. But you can't argue with the execution. You got to trust the process.
Right. And that's a huge thing. Like, so really, you really are looking for that, almost that avatar that was kind of where you were, all the way at the bottom, or just at that glass ceiling where he's like, you know what? I know there's something a little bit bigger. I know there's something a little bit bigger. I just need to trust the process. I need to find somebody that's been through the process. And what's awesome is I can tell that you take a lot of your coaching back from the CrossFit type, I mean, you get in there, like, you tell them what's going on and you teach them the process. And as long as they follow the process, I watch The Prophet a lot, and he talks about three things: product, profit, process, and people. And when you can get those three things together, your business will explode.
Yeah, 100%.
That's an awesome avatar for you. The next tip is, I know you've done some publishing. You've had your podcast out there for about 6 months.
I think I started it in October of last year.
Okay, so just coming on a year.
Yeah, it's coming on a year, man. Time's been flying. I'm doing a lot of traveling lately, so days are just flying by for me.
That's a good thing. So how important would you say publishing is been for your business, via podcasts, via Facebook groups, via basically getting your message out there and letting your audience receive it? How important has it been to the growth of your business and the stability and the scalability of your business?
It can't survive without it. It can't thrive without it. I mean, there's so many different layers in which it improves the success of your business. I mean, obviously it's the relationship between you and your clients. That's how you guys communicate, right? To go out there and deliver that consistency in your message. But it also internalizes your messaging to you as well, right? The more opportunities you have to go out there and speak, the more it just becomes your language. It becomes a part of who you are, right? If the only time the opportunity I had to speak about this stuff was to do just like a one weekly podcast, it wouldn't be enough. I do my weekly podcast. I show up on Instagram every single day. I show up from my Facebook group and speak specifically to them about their pain points, right? So we can problem solve with them. So I do it on multiple layers, right? The general audience, the more private audience, the one-on-ones. When I do my podcast, most of that content is created from me asking my audience, what do you guys want to talk about? What's your pain point? What's your sticking point right now? What are you struggling with? Let's break this down so you get some perspective on it. But it's essential. And it's the delivery content, and it's consistency, right? Like, your audience needs to know that they can rely on you to show up on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's 100%. You really have to be. One of the big things about publishing is being consistent. But one of the big things is, I tell people this: if the Late Show didn't go on every single night, you wouldn't know where to find them.
Yep.
You wouldn't know that at 11 o'clock at night, every single person is watching the Late Show or whatever TV show it is. You know that it's going to be there every single time. And when you bring your coaching and your podcast and your publishing into that type of a framework, like for me, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays usually is when I release a podcast. But once you get to that level, it becomes a muscle, and Absolutely. It becomes simple. And then, like, the traction just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going and gets you better and better clients. So That publishing, I've been beaten on that one so hard. It's just because I've been doing it and I feel it, and I feel how the difference it's making. And you can tell that it's made a huge difference in what you do. I mean, your posture is phenomenal. I mean, you literally have that posture going. So I'm going to ask you another question. You've been in the entrepreneur space since you were 2 years old, but I'm going to fast forward, actually, probably second grade, but you were still running around the store at 2 years old. I'm going to actually bring it up to maybe when you first got the gym, when you first opened up the gym, when you first went out on your own. What was the one thing that you tell yourself to increase your speed of your business? What was the one thing that you tell yourself, 8 years ago when you were launching that business? What was the one thing? I mean, you can go back to that business. You can go back to this business. You can go back to, what you were doing in real estate. But what's the one thing you do that overall would increase your speed in all of the avenues you've been in?
Yeah, absolutely. That's easy, man. It's the power of your self-talk, right? It's 80% of your success is all psychology. It's mindset. And you've got to condition yourself to think the thoughts that you need to think that are going to lead you to your success. Because if you just leave it up to your mind to decide what you want to think, then you're just in a reactive state all the time. And you're just going to get buried by fear and insecurity because it's going to show up. It's just conditioning that belief in myself that I can do this. And just believing it with certainty. So that no matter what comes up, it shows up in your way, you just have that trust and belief in yourself that it's just part of the process. You're going to face it and overcome it. Because when I started that gym, part of what I did was I did visualization. Every morning I would sit down and I would sit there in a meditative state and I would visualize what I wanted this gym to be. And I would put emotion behind it. I would see that vision with such clarity that it just created that belief and that certainty in me. And there was multiple times in those first few months where I felt like it was all going to fall apart. But it's just like, no, I just kept pushing. I kept pushing, right? You get that moment, you're like right before I was supposed to sign my lease, like the landlord calls like, oh, there's a zoning problem. We can't sign here. And I'm like, I'm supposed to open in a week. Like, what do you mean I can't sign here, right? Like I was just full panic, but it all worked out. It was just kind of one of those obstacles that I had to overcome. But because I just continue to condition that belief, like I know I'm going to succeed here. Like I know this is my purpose. Like I know I can do this really, really well. Like I know, and then by having that belief, it also created the action for me. I also immersed myself in all the education and knowledge that I need to know to be able to create and run this business successfully. I put myself in the right rooms. I hired coaches to help me along the way to, teach me things I didn't know and give me perspectives that I didn't have. And I just committed to just serving on every step of the way. I wanted every person that come to saw me to have an experience that exceeded every expectation at every level. Right? I mean, it was always about serving my clients, right? I want to give you the best possible experience that I have the ability to provide. And when you come from that place, it's just, success comes in. I didn't focus on the money. I focused on the value. I focused on the service. And when you do that, it's just, the money's a byproduct. It just comes in.
Right. I've noticed that too. If you're not focusing on the money, if you're focusing on, like you said, I know one of your teachers, or I know one of the guys you follow, because you're talking about certainty, you're talking about turning shoulds into musts, you're talking to visualization.
Yeah.
You sound like him. So I won't.
And he learned from Jim Rohn. That was his mentor.
That was his mentor. So yeah, I mean, you can see it, and my audience will definitely benefit from all that you do. So what are you working on right now? And where can the audience find you? I always say that I'm going to put your links, your Facebook, your Instagram, and website that you go to, or that we can find you on, in the show notes. They'll always be in the show notes. But what are you working on right now, and where can they find you if they want to find you right away?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the best place to find me is just on Instagram, which is Arvin_Anderson, because I'm always putting up whatever I'm working on in the moment there. Right now, I'm in the middle of a 4-part webinar series where I've identified the 4 main sticking points and limiting limitations that entrepreneurs are facing in their business, and I'm addressing each one of those 4 sticking points in this 4-part series. So like I mentioned before, yesterday I did the first one, which was clarifying your niche so you can build your audience and full of your ideal client. And the next one I'm doing is how to show up powerfully as a leader to your community, even when you're battling with imposter syndrome. Right? which is a huge one for people. I don't know. Should I really be doing this? Like, what qualifies me to sit here and tell people how to change their life? Like, just understanding it's what we all go through, but more importantly, how can we step into our power and our certainty in those moments so that we can deliver in the manner in which we're supposed to? So all that information will be on my Instagram profile as well.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. We'll hit that 3-part series. So the last thing that I'm going to ask you, this was a quick interview. This was action packed though. This was a super awesome interview. So in your business today, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night? Good, bad, or both? I mean, I ask that to everybody. And the reason why I ask that is because a lot of people are like, oh, that's Arvin. He did this. He's been a coach. He's been this. He's been that. But, I want people to relate to you as, you're a person. I mean, we grew up together. You're a person. And most people, I always tell people that there's the dream, struggle, and the victory. And most people relate to us in the middle when we're struggling, when our back was against the wall, when we were at that bottom point. But what's that one thing that keeps you up at night in your business? Good, bad, or both?
Yeah. Really, it's like, how do I make this better? I'm always pushing myself to grow and to improve. Like, how do I make this better? Because no matter, every day you're going to battle with fear, right? You're going to battle with stress, and that's going to show up, right? Like, there's going to be moments in your business where you're like, the money's not coming in, and that can really stress you out. And being able to just condition yourself to focus on the things that you can control, which is, how can I overserve here? How can I provide more value? How can I do something differently than everybody else is doing? It's funny, like I have my coach that I work with, and I just messaged her before I hopped on this call with that thought of, I really want to just identify, I look at what all the other coaches are doing, and I don't want to fall into that bucket. I want when they talk with me, that I sound different, because I am different, because what I'm providing is different than anything else that anybody else is providing. And I don't know what those answers are yet, but we got to find that clarification, what that is, so that when people come to me, it's an entirely different experience that also just over delivers on every single level. So just always like, how do I make this better? How do I make this better? And sometimes that's like a real fun and positive thought. Sometimes it's a little bit stressful, right? So it's just being able to manage my emotional state there and where that answer is coming from.
Yeah, that I always say that the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And when you niche down like that, and your program is got to be fantastic. So I definitely would recommend the audience to take a look at that. That's all I got. I'm going to close it out real quick. Do you have any last things that you want to share with the audience? Biggest nugget or anything like that, that you would say, write this one down or anything like that? Just the last words. You got any?
Yeah, absolutely, man. At my core, like the most foundational and fundamental thing that I teach people is that everything that you want in life, you want it because you think you're going to feel better in the having of it. If you can condition yourself to just feel the way that you want to feel first, that is what is actually going to open the door for all the things that you're wanting. Because everything that we do here, it's an energetic vibration. And all of these successes and riches and the love and all these things that you want in life, they vibrate at a certain energetic frequency. And the only way that you can bring those things into your life is if you condition yourself to elevate your energetic vibration to match that frequency. And so many times people go right into the actions, right? And it's what I used to do. It's like, well, let me try this, let me try that. But I was still coming from that low frequency of stress and insecurity and frustration. And I was hoping that I was somehow going to bring this abundance and success and fun into my life. And it wasn't working because I was at the wrong frequency. So before you get into that action, and I know we all want to just like get into action, I just implore people to just please condition yourself first to take yourself into a peak state, whatever that peak state, which is the ultimate expression of that emotion. Condition yourself to be at that peak state so you can elevate your energetic vibration to match the frequency of the things that you want to bring into your life.
That's huge. That is a huge nugget, guys. Elevate your state condition yourself and elevate your state. That is huge. Arvin, thank you. Hey, guys, again, Arvin Anderson, all of his information will be in the show notes. It was a pleasure for you being here. Hey, guys, make sure you listen to the entire outro because, as always, I will be giving something away for free at the end of the outro. So, again, Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you guys on another episode of Burnt Phone Marketing Radio. This is Eric Savlon. I know that network marketing can be tough sometimes, being that outcast, seeing that vision that nobody else sees. So what I did for you guys is I put together a summit of some of the top income earners in network marketing for free at www.burntphonechallenge.com/summit. This summit's going to help you with belief, it's going to help you with strategy, and it's going to help you with the steps to help you grow your business. So enjoy the free training, and I'll see you on the next podcast.